everyone, it's Galena, and we're getting ready to plant all of our dahlias. Well, actually I started today, but it's officially starting next week. So I'm gonna walk you through how we set up the field this year. Last year was the first year with this field, and we got a lot of things right, and then there were just a couple notes of stuff I wanted to tweak. That might be true every year, but I feel really hopeful that this will be almost a permanent system, even if we have to play around with it a little bit as the years go by. So long term, I want to move back towards no-till or very low-till, as that's a way of growing that I really do believe is more beneficial than tilling regularly. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. I respect all viewpoints. That's just my personal way of how I want to farm. But when we moved into this property, it had basically been a cow farm for 100 years. We moved in June. There was no time to do anything but till, and the soil was very compact. So in many ways, I believe that that was a necessary step to break it up and get it ready to plant faster. We definitely dealt with higher weed pressure because we did that, but that's a trade-off that I was willing to pay. So last winter, we discovered that the water table in parts of our field are quite high. And so I would say that about a third of our field, like spread out, was flooding during the winter. So to counteract that, I'm doing what many farmers before me have done, and I'm going through, and I actually found a friend who has a tractor who has the attachment to do this, so it took way shorter time than doing it by hand, but he did it today, and he went through and he mounded all of the beds. So the paths are lower than the actual beds, and my goal is this will be a permanent setup. We will not be doing this every year. Instead, we will find a way to cover the rows, either a winter cover crop or a silage tarp during the winter, to prevent compaction from rain, to protect the soil, to prevent weeds, to protect all of that stuff, so we don't have to keep tilling every single year. The other thing that I'm going to do is we are doing living pathways. I want to move in that direction instead of doing landscape fabric, which I'm really not a fan of, or mulch, which degrades really quickly or decomposes really quickly in our climate, just simply due to all the rain that we get in fall and winter. So I want to move towards the living pathway. It's taken me quite a while to figure out what kind to use, because we have a pretty mild climate, and certain things that other people will use and don't have to worry about spreading, I can't use because I know that it will. An example of that would be certain types of clover. So clover is not a good choice in my climate specifically, unless I have found that mini clover works, but it blooms so close to the ground that you then have bees all over it, which is fine, except that my kids are basically barefoot all the time, and that results in a lot of stings. So that's not a good choice for us. One of my kids is not allergic to bee stings, but he definitely has a bigger reaction than I'm really comfortable with. So I'm trying to limit those kind of stings. So clover is out for that reason. The other thing that I want to do long term with our field is utilize cover crops instead of having to bring in compost to amend my field. The tricky part with this is it is difficult to grow a cover crop and grow the crops that you want to produce from. Like, really what you need is to be able to either grow one or the other. You can't really grow both. So what I'm doing in that regard is complete experimentation this year. I do not know if it will work. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But what I'm basically doing is, the guy came in, and as you can see, kind of it's mounded there on the path. So we're just going through and we're quickly raking the paths to be mostly level. And then in the paths, I'm going to do a cover crop that can withstand traffic. I think I'm going to be mostly doing teff, but I'm also going to experiment with oats. And then every week or so, it's going to be mowed. And I know some people might find that annoying. I don't. I like mowing. So we're going to mow down the paths, but we're going to let the cover crop, green mulch, spray into the beds. And my hope with that is that regular mowing and then the green organic matter spraying up into the beds at the base of all the dahlias and the flowers will not only provide a mulch over the summer, but will also decompose and feed the soil. So essentially what I'm trying to do is cover crop the pathways and utilize to push that into the beds during the summer. Will it work? I don't know. I'll let you know. I think it could work, but there also might be something that I'm completely missing about. Like maybe it won't. Maybe I won't like it. But it's worth a shot to me. I try a lot of stuff. Because why not, you know? I'm going through, we're raking out the pathways really quick. This one is already done. It does not take that long, if you can tell. So see, this one's not. So the tractor left a ridge. It's just little rake, push the dirt into there. Pretty simple, takes a few minutes because the dirt is really loose. And then here, I've already started planting. I'm staking 2 different ways this year, by which I mean I'm double staking. So I'm using these nursery tags, and I didn't come up with this idea. This is definitely borrowed from the way Florette does it. But I'll link where I got those. So that's one way of labeling. And then I got metal conduit pipes, and those are gonna go in with a little metal tag, and that's gonna be the second way I label. So everything will be labeled twice. And I'm doing 2 rows. So one variety will go straight down, and then where there's a new variety, it will switch. Same over here. So I'm not gonna go like say this was Bloomquist Allen. I wouldn't go Bloomquist Allen, Bloomquist Allen. It would just be straight Bloomquist Allen down that way, start another variety, different variety here, straight down. That way I know that everything between those 2 tags is just one variety. And the goal of this, and again, this was not my idea of how to do it. Both the Farmhouse Flower Farm and Florette do it this way. This is to save me time in labeling, because if you go across it, you can't label that way because it might switch at the wrong time. So everything will be double labeled. As you can tell, if you read that label, I'm planting seedlings right now. So I'm planting 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year seedlings in the first few rows. Then we will move on to hybridizing rows, other cut flowers, and then the named varieties, and the first year seedlings will just keep on going back. So there are 62 total rows, maybe it's 63, and each one is 90 feet long. To prep the rows, I just do a very simple dried molasses and a slow release nitrogen feed. So I will go through and I will scatter that over a row and just rake it in before we plant. And I'm going to do my absolute best to have that all done before Sunday, because we're finally supposed to get rain again on Sunday. And when I say finally, it's been an incredibly dry April for us in the Pacific Northwest. We've had very little rain. All of the farmers around me, and we've never had to irrigate this early. So a week of rain is not ideal for planting dahlias, but I'm not going to complain about it because we really need water. So that is how we're doing the field this year. We'll go through and put in T-posts. When I say we, I primarily mean my husband will go in through and put in T-posts. I can put in T-posts too, but he has started doing a lot of work on the farm, so he's a little bit better at getting things straight than I am. I am not afraid to admit that. He is much better. So that's why he builds the things. I'm a little bit better at the creative design, so we just played each other's strengths. People have asked how big this field is. It's basically 1 acre. And we had about a 1/4 acre planted last year. So this will be the first year ever that I have farmed this much land. So that's how we're gonna do the field. Irrigation will be going in before the end of the month. I've gotten a lot of requests on doing a video showing how we do that, and I absolutely will. One of the things that we also have to get done, which I'll be planting, so this is what my husband will be doing, is we are running a water line the entire length of the field with several hydrants or spigots coming out down the length of the field. And the reason for this is to simply cut down on the amount of hoses that we have to bring from our barn. So we're just going to connect to the water source that's at the barn, trench a line down. This will also make it more efficient to run water to the hoop houses without having to have like massive hoses spread out and potentially get destroyed when we mow, which I've done twice now. Quick peek at the pansies. So that's what's going on here over the next 4 weeks. It's a lot to get done, honestly. Plant the whole field, which is not just dahlias. T-post and corral the whole field. Put in a water line and set up irrigation for the whole field. This is why I'm kind of happy that there's rain, because if there's rain, we can push that irrigation out a little bit. So, yeah. But it will get done. And regardless, when I feel a little panic, because I definitely do about how much there is, I just remind myself that I moved last year and I was not even able to access this until end of May. And we had to do all of that. I mean, granted, we didn't plant as much, but we were moving, and I didn't even finish planting this field until end of June last year. So yeah, that makes me feel better whenever I start to think about how much work there is to do. So there's a little update. Stay tuned. I'll be doing some videos on planting dahlias, pinching dahlias, staking dahlias, and how we set up overhead irrigation and why we do that, if anyone's interested. And thanks for watching.